The Manuscript of Survival, Part 393. January 30, 2014. By now, you will all have been well acquainted with these endless fluctuations of energy coming into your being, and we venture to guess that you have all in some way been able to access hitherto unexplored territory within. This may not feel as any major feat to some of you, as you have so far probably not been able to get but a small sip from that huge ocean of endless information that lies within, but still, we do think it has whetted your appetite for more. For more is to come, dear ones, and it will come in fits and starts, in huge chunks and in tiny morsels, and probably when you least expect it to. For in this, as in everything else, trying to force your way forwards will not work very well, as it is by simply allowing yourself to let go of the need to control this process that you will be able to fully enter this ocean of the future. And so, whatever it takes, make sure you do not make the mistake of setting up a plan on how to do this. For remember, mankind has a habit of making up little lists, you even call them your to-do lists, and you have trained yourselves well to think that as long as you follow this carefully constructed paper trail, you will find yourself moving forwards at an appropriate speed, and you will reach your designated goal just as you have planned it. Well, this is not one of those old and literally single-dimensional journeys, and this is certainly not a course to be taken or a piece of furniture to be assembled according to that enclosed manual. What you are doing is something very, very different indeed, and that is why we are saying to you over and over again to let go of any preconceived notions as to how to go about this in the first place. For the more you try to find the right way to do this, the more you will literally be getting in your own way, and the more you follow what you have learned as an eminent tool, namely planning ahead and acting out a carefully put together sequence in order to advance towards your goal, the more you will be apt to lose yourself in your own good intentions. So again we say, throw caution to the winds, stop trying so hard to do and try to just be you. This will sound like a rather childish and oversimplified way to go about this, but again, we have told you before to become as if a child again. Remember, we are trying to guide you through that process of liberating yourself from the old bonds of being a human being within the strict confines that have been erected around you, and the only way to do that is to stop acting like one. You see, you have all your lives been carefully trained to do the right thing at the exact right time, and if you have ever been encouraged to think outside the box, there have been some very strict rules underlying that seemingly liberated way of going about things. For to be a human is to follow a very set way of being, and especially a very set way of doing things, and so, as this pattern has been worn so thoroughly into you all, it has literally produced a very deep groove within you that is hard to escape from. For even if you think you are free, you will in many ways still act according to that old and imbued way of thinking and acting, and as such, it takes quite a lot of effort to shake oneself loose from that old groove. But the biggest challenge is this: the effort we refer to is in fact the opposite of effort. For you need to become effortless in a way that will make all of those old rules and instructions become null and void once and for all. Again, we will seem to be talking in extremely convoluted terms, but what we are trying to tell you all is that this is in fact so much more simple than what many of you are trying to wrap your heads around at the moment. Do not forget, we have an intimate knowledge of mankind, and even if we can be criticized for only seeing you from afar, we can only see too well the old patterns repeating themselves, seemingly endlessly. Except for in a few instances, when we see the joy and exuberance in someone suddenly realizing the gist of this message, becoming free is simply a question of acting as if you are. In other words, you need not change anything in your daily life, you need only see it for the true illusion it really is, and when this really sinks in, all of the old patterns will melt away like a sundae in the midday sun. This may sound like we are oversimplifying, but bear with us as we try to give this to you in a very clear and succinct manner. For what you see are the obstacles, and again you try to crash your way through them, like a stubborn creature butting its head again and again into the same wall. But if you lift your eyes, you will see that there is no wall, it is simply a figment of your imagination, and if you simply step back, you can easily step aside and continue onwards, unhindered by what you for so long have seen as an impenetrable barrier between you and the rest of creation. You see, your mind is still very busy setting up all of these imaginary roadblocks, and so, your frustration continues to increase as you find yourself endlessly searching for that exit sign somewhere. But none seems to be in sight, and so you try harder and harder to knock down that wall again. Again, to no avail. But if you do manage to step back a little bit, and simply open up to that child inside who will see blue skies where that adult in you will see a gray prison wall, you will find yourself flying free under this blue sky, unfettered by that old and still in many ways imprisoned way of thinking that comes so naturally to so many of you. For you are no longer imprisoned, you simply think that you are, and so, the autopilot will kick in once again and you will keep running around and around in that same old rut of frustration and exhaustion. But there is a simple way out, and that is to let go of all of the old notions of working your way out of this prison. For it is indeed this very idea of working that is keeping you in there in the first place. So again we say, let go, and jump off that cliff and into the freedom you so long for. It is there for the taking, ready to fall into your lap the very moment you decide to stop trying so hard to reach for it. The Constant Companions. Channeled by Asia North. asianorth.wordpress.com